Glenn works as a dedicated doctor specializing in treating monster girls, a job that comes with its own unique challenges. However, they all turn out to be borderline freaky and want him to rearrange their guts. One day in a world where humans and monsters finally ended a devastating war, both sides now live together in peace. Glenn works as a dedicated doctor specializing in treating monster girls, a job that comes with its own unique challenges. One day, Glenn is examining a cowgirl at the clinic. He checks her health carefully, making sure everything is normal. After completing the examination, he discovers that she's actually pregnant. When he tells her the news, the father, a strong bullman, rushes inside, relieved and overjoyed to hear that everything is fine. Glenn's assistant, Saffite, a calm and loyal Lamia, snake girl, enters the room to congratulate the couple with a bouquet of flowers. Later, after the clinic closes, Glenn notices that Saffite seems a bit upset. She admits she felt uncomfortable earlier when he was alone with a married patient, even though she knows he was just doing his job. Before the conversation can continue, a knock breaks the tension. A mailman hands Glenn a special delivery, a letter from their former teacher, Dr. Tully, the renowned head doctor of the Central Hospital. The next day, Glenn and Saffite head to the arena. They ride a carriage through the bustling city, where humans and monsters live side by side in harmony. Dr. Tully had requested Glenn's help to perform physical examinations on several fighters preparing for their upcoming matches. Saffite, however, isn't thrilled about leaving their small clinic behind. When they arrive, the centaur who pulled their carriage encourages Glenn to do his best for the centaur princess. Inside the arena, they are greeted by a group of centaurs led by a confident female warrior named Celia. The fighters are surprised to see a real human doctor, but Celia reminds them to show proper manners. Saffite is impressed by how easily Celia commands the respect of the fighters. Celia proudly introduces herself and talks enthusiastically about her heritage, making it clear why many refer to her as a princess. Glenn begins examining the fighters, starting with a cat girl who tries to charm him during the checkup. Saffite immediately steps in, clearly not liking the attention the girl is giving her doctor. Then it's Celia's turn for her examination. She speaks boldly about her future as a leader and hints jokingly about how someone strong must stand by her side one day. Before she can go too far with her teasing attitude, Saffite pulls her aside protectively and comments on how Celia needs to stay in top shape if she wants to keep up her fighting abilities. Later that night, Tully's attendants, Kai and Moore, visit Glenn. They are worried about their princess's recent condition. Glenn assures them that Celia is healthy, but they reveal something deeper. Despite her talent and hard work, she has been struggling in the arena lately, losing matches she should have easily won. The revelation weighs heavily on Glenn. As he lies awake thinking, Saffite joins him to comfort him. She reminds him of their long history together from childhood to their academy days. But Glenn can't shake off what he heard. Something is clearly affecting Celia, and they need to find out what it is. Later that night, Glenn keeps thinking about why Celia has been losing her fights. The pressure on her as a future leader is clearly taking a toll. He tries to relax, and Saffite brings him a drink to calm his nerves. Glenn takes a small sip, but she ends up drinking straight from the container, clearly stressed and emotional. Suddenly, Glenn gets an idea. He wants to examine Celia again because he suspects the issue isn't her training or talent, it's something physical. Saffite, still emotional, refuses to let him go alone, wrapping her tail around him protectively, but eventually she calms down. The next day, Celia loses another match, becoming even more frustrated. That night, she pushes herself harder in training, but Glenn arrives to talk to her. He tells her that he can fix it by trimming the overgrowth and replacing her old horseshoes with new ones, but her pride gets in the way and she refuses. Suddenly, Kai and Moore restrain her gently, not to harm her but because they care and want her to get the treatment she needs. Celia panics at first, scared of the pain. Glenn reassures her and begins carefully lifting her leg. He trims her hooves with precision, calming her step by step. When the new heated horseshoes arrive, she grows nervous again, but Glenn works slowly and carefully, making sure nothing hurts her. Saffite helps keep her steady as Glenn attaches the shoes one by one. By the end, they manage to finish the treatment successfully. Celia is exhausted but relieved, finally understanding that her weakness came from a physical issue she had ignored for too long. A few days later, Celia goes on a full winning streak thanks to her new horseshoes. Glenn and Saffite watch proudly from the stands as Celia defeats a lizard fighter with a single clean strike. She spots Glenn in the crowd and happily waves to him, while Saffite immediately wraps her tail around him out of jealousy. The story then flashes back to years ago. Saffite was originally sent to Glenn's family as a political hostage, but instead of resentment, the two grew close over time. When the war finally ended, she had to return home. Their goodbye was painful. Glenn ran after her carriage in tears, and Saffite looked back with the same heartbreak. They wouldn't meet again until years later at the academy, and that reunion brought them right back together. Back in the present, Saffite runs out of her sunblock, so Glenn suggests they buy more when they restock supplies. The two travel by boat toward the waterways, and Saffite can't help but enjoy the moment, just the two of them on what feels like a small side quest. A mermaid pulls their boat and asks where they're headed. Saffite immediately starts asking for luxury items, but Glenn reminds her that they're basically broke. Along the ride, they admire the city's canals and praise Lady Sky for her brilliant work managing the waterways. Once they arrive, they shop for everything the clinic needs. Before heading back, Saffite begs the mermaid to stop at a gift shop. The moment they enter, her inner shopaholic awakens. She sparkles at every shiny item and nearly buys half the store. After hours of browsing, she ends up buying just one small thing, telling Glenn that the real reward was spending time with him. The mermaid then mentions a nighttime show where mermaids sing and dance, an event that always seems to irritate Saffite. She wants to see it, but Glenn insists they need to return because of work. Just then, another mermaid swims over, calls them a cute couple, and invites them to her shop. Saffite immediately caves to the compliment and drags Glenn along. The mermaid introduces herself with a bright smile, Lula. Lula offers to sing for them, joking that she can even cover some Taylor Swift if they want. Glenn stares at her a little too long in admiration of her voice, and Saffite immediately gets jealous, insisting he's starring way more than necessary. They pay Lula to perform, but she turns them down. Apparently their money isn't enough, especially since Lady Sky herself invited her to sing at the palace. To convince her, Glenn offers a free medical checkup instead, and Lula finally agrees. She begins singing, and her voice is so good it could humble any professional singer. But suddenly she starts coughing mid-song and looks discouraged. Glenn notices something's wrong and asks to examine her somewhere more private. He checks her throat and finds it irritated, then listens to her breathing. He also notices her gills are staying unusually open on land, which worries him since mermaids aren't meant to spend too much time outside the water. Lula admits she performs on land far more than she should because she needs the money. She's supporting her family alone after her father disappeared long ago. She explains that singing for Lady Sky could be her big break, so she keeps pushing herself even when it hurts. Suddenly, a young human boy falls into the water and the strong current pulls him out. Lula dives in immediately. Despite her breathing issues, she swims with everything she has and manages to rescue him like a true hero. Glenn performs CPR on the boy, saving him, only to realize too late that Lula has collapsed underwater from exhaustion. Glenn dives in after her. Underwater, Lula weakly opens her eyes, thinking these might be her final moments. She regrets not being able to help her mother more and silently wishes for just one more chance. Glenn refuses to give up on Lula. He dives toward her and manages to get her to breathe again by helping her circulate fresh air through her gills, saving her life before he himself passes out from exhaustion. Saffite quickly wraps her tail around both of them and pulls them back onto the boat. Even after waking up, Lula refuses to let go of Glenn, clinging to him out of pure relief, much to Saffite's clear jealousy. A few days later, Lula performs on stage in front of the entire town. Her voice earns her a full standing ovation. She publicly thanks Glenn and Saffite for helping her recover with the medicine they gave her. But the moment her eyes land on Glenn, she blushes and runs off, still embarrassed about their underwater almost kiss during the rescue. If you loved this anime story and want to know what happens next, drop a comment below and I'll make part 2 just for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.